So again, a driver who got caught by the weather, and he was very disappointed. He is the local boy, and he had hoped to come here and race at his home circuit, but that duty has been handed over now to Salvador Duran. Salvador came in on Saturday morning when the track was bone dry, a gorgeous day. As we look at Team Australia, Christian Jones, has he stalled or has he got a problem? He's certainly left on the line, and he's going to be the last of the cars to make it round a lap. I think they're going to try and bump start it. It's not, well, it looks like he's jammed it in gear. He hasn't, come on, lift the clutch.
Well, he's got a problem there somewhere.
Okay,
now it's rolling.
He's put his foot in the clutch. Now they can push the car. Now bump start it, get him going, and he can take up his position at the tail of the field. Nothing really lost other than just an unnecessary amount of panic going on as this car. Well, they're not actually trying to, they're going to push it, I think, somewhere either towards the end of the pit lane. Oh, he's got it going, there we are. So it took some time to get, maybe he was unable to select the gear while the car was being pushed. Now Christian's got it up and running, and well, he's some 4 or 5 corners behind the train of 21 cars. As there we see they come around. This is turn 5 leading up around the steel mills. Amazing piece of construction that was built in 1900, and it's still standing.
Still standing, yes, as a monument really to the industry here from years gone by. He's going to catch up the train, I think. It's not going to be too much of a problem for Christian Jones to get himself back onto the queue of cars. And in fact, interestingly, with the 3 new drivers, he's not a new driver, of course, he's done one event before, but with the 3 new drivers joining into the series this weekend, we've now reached the total of 50 different drivers who've raced in A1 since it began. And
it was just interesting watching Christian going through turn 5, clearly running quicker than the chain of cars that he's trying to catch up to the end of. He came through turn 5 quicker, and obviously, you know, tyre temperatures have dropped. Cars have been sitting in the grid for 15 minutes. So most of the field 22 cars will have cool tyres. The one that may have a slight advantage is Christian Jones, because he's been able to run the first half of the lap quicker than this part of the field. You can see why drivers are moving around. They're trying to get temperature into the tyre, not just surface temperature. What you need to get is core tyre temperature. The whole tyre, the carcass as well as the surface of the tyre, needs to get up to temperature. One way you can do it is to move around and try and get energy into that tyre, but the reality is it's not going to make a huge difference with a relatively low ambient temperature compared to that we enjoyed on Saturday for qualifying.
Now they've got to get themselves into formation here through the last couple of corners and hope to hold that formation as they come on to start finish straight. Alexander Premat detects the pace and he goes hard on it straight away. They're up to full race speed. Look at Italy on the attack for 3rd. France has the lead into turn 1. 2nd place for Switzerland. South Africa's 3rd. Italy in 4th. And watch out for any incidents behind the Netherlands. Under attack from Ireland, very tight into turn 2.
Well, that was a very clean start compared to the usual we've seen here. But now we come into these very tight right-left chicanes. This is into turns 4 and 5. So decidable. That's Portugal, yes, across the grass. The first one we've seen.
Yeah, he got squeezed out wide. France under attack from Switzerland there, and South Africa took advantage but couldn't. Now Italy into 3rd.
There was no chance Stephen Simpson had of getting that move away. He lost the position very simply and easily to Italy, and that's just trying to make up for too much of what was lost due to the technical infringement.
Verstappen's still in there. Malaysia's made good progress. Alex Young's gained a couple of places. Japan's made amazing progress. Somebody going slowly. Is that still Portugal?
That's Portugal, yes.
So one or two drivers have made a massive amount of progress. We're on board here though with Brazil, Christian Fittipaldi.
So this is down into turn 8. This is the corner that leads onto the sweeper. This is turn 9. This is just about flat out. Just look at that, Italy trying to make a move on. Switzerland coming up into turn 10. Easy to overdrive coming into turn 10.
Italy seems to have used all its power boost already. I don't quite know how they've managed that. They have 4.
Ooh, big shot. There's green bodywork there as well.
Mexico.
Yes, we don't know what car that is. There's a lot of green bodywork in conjunction. Is that all just Salvador Duran, or is that going to see it? Well, safety car has been deployed, so already a problem. The field will be brought under the safety car as Salvador Duran, and we're not sure if that was a second car or not involved in an incident around the circuit.
What a disappointment for local hero Salvador Duran. He's out on the first lap of the sprint race. The safety car comes out. Now remember, there's no pit stops in the sprint race. You won't see them diving into the pits unless they have a mechanical problem.
Well, we see, I wonder, has somebody run into the back of somebody? It looks like the nose of part of another car, and that's come into contact with the Mexican entry. We haven't seen any other than, there it is there. It is Ireland, I believe.
Yes, it is the Irish
Suspension
car.
damage, bodywork damage. Look, left front wheel pointing sharply to the right.
Yeah, it is Ralph Furman's car that is off at the side of the track.
And that's coming up, I believe, up into turn 10. The part of racetrack, and that's a lot of damage to that car.
And of course, they're going to be tough to get these cars repaired for the feature race later on, so it's a horrible start to the day for both Mexico and Team Ireland.
But they've also got to get these two cars removed to safety before this race can once again get underway, have the safety car return to pit lane. So there's a lot of work. It's a short lap. The cars are going to come around fairly regularly. There's the first of the trucks that will tow away. Certainly Team Mexico's car can get taken away quite safely. That's into turn 5. All that incident occurred with Team Mexico and Team Ireland.
So let's just tell you how that first lap went. France came round in the lead in the end from Switzerland and Italy. South Africa lost a place down to 4th. USA maintained their 5th place. Czech Republic in 6th. Then the Netherlands 7th. Malaysia 8th. They gained a couple of spots. Germany up into 9th place. They also made progress. Brazil 10th. New Zealand 11th. So they gained a couple of places. Japan 12th. Now that's a good start for Japan because they started 17th on the grid. Canada is 13th. Lebanon 14th. Austria 15th. Great Britain didn't get away particularly well. Robbie Kerr currently 16th ahead of Ananda Mikkola for Indonesia 17th. China's running 18th ahead of both Australia and of course Portugal, who went across the grass.
And I suspect that the reason why people are slightly out of position is because of the incident involving Mexico. They started 14th, Ireland started 8th. How 14 and 8 get together on a racetrack is hard to judge, but that's what happens on a street track where you've got a very slippery surface. You've got cars with tires that are low in temperature. As Alvaro Parent for Portugal, we saw him go off track in turns 4 and 5. So that car jacked up, not going to take part any further, we would imagine. Though it is important that he should think about if they can get that car straightened out quickly enough to get back. Here's an incident. This is the restart.
Yeah, this is when they started originally, and it was a fairly clean start up front, wasn't it? Italy had a little look at getting past South Africa, but behind there was a bit of action going on. I know that Ireland certainly were attacking the Netherlands.
Well, Ireland were side by side coming through turn 1 with Jos Verstappen, and we don't know where quite Mexico was in that mix, but this is the inevitability of racing on a street track, a track that's got a relatively low level of grip. There's Mexico, but 4 or 5 cars behind Ireland as they came out of turn 2.
Yeah, that's odd, isn't it? It makes you wonder what happened at the next sequence. Now, this was at the chicane. Oh, France made a mistake at that chicane. Look how sideways they got. And that allowed Neil Yarni to close right up.
And, of course, we also saw the move that comes just after this, where Stephen Simpson, third car for South Africa, tried to do a move down the inside. There on the inside 2 cars, that is Ireland, but Mexico, well, much further back.
Yeah, they were further back, so it's still difficult to see exactly what happened between Mexico and Ireland for them to come together and do quite as much damage as has been done. Bits of bodywork over the track and bent suspension parts. So tricky one that, but France have emerged in front with Switzerland behind as Portugal go to work, as you say, trying to get this car repaired so that they can get him out in this race and at least claim back a couple of spots on the grid for the feature race.
Yes, Duran's car appears to be much less damaged of the 2 cars, much worse. You can see there, Ireland. I just wondered, did one car lose it and just involve another incident, or whether these 2 cars, did they get together somehow? Clearly Ireland's going to have the much bigger task to get their car ready for the feature race, and of course they'll want to get these 2 cars back to the garages as quickly as possible, let Mexico work on their car, but primarily Ireland are going to have to do a lot more work with suspension damage, and well, that's just the tail end of it. We don't quite really see what caused all that.
Ireland certainly, I think Ireland must have made some pretty big contact, because I think it looks like they've gone from one side of the road to the other pretty much.
Certainly very big contact in the bodywork that was on that, but it's the left front wheel.
Look in the background, under safety car, we've
Japan.
got a car rolling over on the main straight.
In fact, there we are, just right below us. That car has gone. This is what happens in these. Well, look at the bodywork. You can see the car upside down, and all of a sudden panic here on pit lane in Monterrey. Why or how that occurred? Hayanari, is it?
It's Hayanari Shimoda.
Yes, it is. It is Team
It's the
Japan.
second time he's been upside down, John. Remember the accident he had in Australia?
We certainly do. That was the most enormous accident. But how that car got in that context, we do again. You're running in a line of cars. You're running relatively slowly. What happens? Drivers tend to accelerate and brake and accelerate and brake. That's to try and maintain tire temperature. And that probably was one of those circumstances where maybe Japan was accelerating at the same time the car he was directly ahead of started to brake, so the 2 come together. Contact with another car.
Well, this Mexican round of A1 Grand Prix has certainly started in pretty dramatic fashion. We've seen an incident that we didn't quite spot between Mexico and Team Ireland. I'm just watching, actually New Zealand's just going down the pit lane with its rear light trailing. They may well have been hit by this car of Japan. Have a look, John. This is what happened as they came out of that final corner. It all got a bit bunched up.
Well, you see there's Brazil. Yes, it must have been New Zealand, in fact. In fact, he clambered all over New Zealand. Somehow or other, he, on the previous lap on timing and scoring, should have been directly behind Brazil, but it appears that he was actually directly behind New Zealand, and it clambered all over the back from what we can see in that replay. There's the gap that appeared. Let's look at it again from a different perspective. Well, yes, it must have been New Zealand's car, but look how many times that's going over, 2.5, 3 times?
That's incredible when you think of the speeds that they were doing. They're doing 80 miles not even that, 60 miles an hour down there?
Less, I would say, maybe 40. But of course, once the momentum goes, if you are the car in the case of Japan, and we suspect that he may have been on full throttle for a brief period in time, he could go from 40 mile an hour to 60 or 70 miles an hour in the blink of an eye. There's the rear view shot, and still it has to be New Zealand. Incredible how much energy was in that roll, despite them being behind the safety car as they came down the straight there, and it was a huge shock to the system, not only for Ainari Shimoda, but what must Matt Halliday have thought? I mean, the worst thing is you're driving along quite comfortably, think a bit of a nudge and a bump, and all of a sudden you've got 500 kilograms of racing car just inches above your head. There is Matt Halliday's Team New Zealand entry back into the garage, back into the pit lane. And is Matt Halliday out of the car? I think he is.
Yeah, I think so. But he must have done a fair old bit of damage to the back end of that car. I guess they're just going to have to try and get it ready for the feature race later on. Real drama.
So out of 18 laps, you've had 1 full lap of racing. The remaining laps have been under safety car. We've still got the situation with France at the front. And of course, we've still got 2 other cars around the circuit, which were also in the process of being removed. So real pressure being put on the infrastructure here in Monterrey to get these 3, 2 of whom are severely damaged cars, away to safety. The third car being Team Mexico, which looked to be the lesser damaged of the 3, to get those cars back to the safety of the garages and let this race get underway. Probably be another couple of laps. Here's the view again. Clambered, I mean, I think he didn't manage to hit the front. He might have just clipped the nose, but then the sequence of barrel rolls and then slides. We've talked about the surface being slippery. Well, there's an indication of how slippery it is. The car continued to slide with the momentum, the kinetic energy that's involved in any projectile when it loses control.
Well, that was astonishing, but I think they've got the car out of the way. They've done a brilliant job actually of sweeping away all the debris that was on the start-finish line, and I think we're going to see the lights going out on the safety car on this lap, so we should be able to get the race restarted. There are still 13, lights are out, 13 to go. Well, there'll be 12 laps to go, of course, when they cross the line. Next time around it'll be France leading from Switzerland, Italy, South Africa and the United States.